Broadcasting from our New England studio, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Infinidat in the Solution Spotlight, an inside look at enterprise technologies.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Infinidat, and focused on global cybersecurity regulatory frameworks and your storage infrastructure. Cybersecurity regulations and directives such as the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, the Digital Operational Resilience Act, and the Network and Information Security Directive 2 have a significant impact on your overall cyber resilience strategy and infrastructure investments. So today, we're focusing our spotlight on Infinidat's data storage solutions and exploring how they align with these cybersecurity guidelines. There's a lot to cover here, so I'll hand this event over to Eric Herzog, the Chief Marketing Officer at Infinidat, to make introductions and start the show.
Today, we're going to talk about global cybersecurity, but not just about our technology InfiniSafe, which has already won 19 awards globally, but how InfiniSafe and what we do at Infinidat prepares you to deal with the regulatory frameworks that you need to adhere to wherever you are in the world, whether you're in the EU, in the UK, in Japan, in the US, and of course, for those of you that work at global Fortune 1000 companies that are public, as you know, you need to adhere to those regulations everywhere. So if you have a data center in California, a data center in London, a data center in Germany, and a data center in Tokyo, you have to adhere to all four countries, or in the case of Germany, the EU. By the way, Germany has some specific of its own regulatory that's going to mimic the EU that is not yet available today. So we're going to talk about all that. But first, let's do a quick overview of who Infinidat is, what we do, and how we do it. So Infinidat is a high-end enterprise storage supplier. We have three main products. On the bottom left, our original product was the InfiniBox, a hybrid array. We then introduced the InfiniGuard, a purpose-built backup appliance that works with all the major backup vendors, Veeam, Commvault, IBM Protect, Zerto, etc. And then the product we introduced in the summer of 2021 was an all-flash variant of the InfiniBox with unmatched performance at 35 mics of latency. Now, all this is brought together with a single operating system, the InfuseOS. This is very different from our competition. For example, if you're using EMC, you've got a PowerMax operating system, a PowerStore operating system, a PowerScale operating system, all different operating systems that you need to learn and deal with. With us, it's one. The InfuseOS delivers that real value. Our multi-patented neural cache technology allows us to have unmatched performance. And in fact, the performance is so good that our hybrid array, the regular InfiniBox, outperforms probably 75% of the all-flash arrays in market. However, it doesn't match all the needs. So by leveraging our neural cache, we also have an all-flash array that is faster than anything. No other vendor has 35 microseconds of latency on their all-flash systems. Now, of course, we imbue all of that with our enterprise class data services, snapshot, replication, all the things you need for a high-end enterprise solution. We also have our Infiniverse platform. The Infiniverse allows us to do all kinds of metrics. Many of them are automated, and our InfiniSafe, which of course is the bulk of the conversation today, which is our cyber storage resilience and recovery software. Remember, at Infinidat, we don't do any custom hardware. While we do deliver it as a storage array, all the components are off the shelf. So the magic you get from Infinidat is built around our InfuseOS operating system and everything that it does for you. Now, a number of different use cases on the primary side on the top left. And on the bottom right, you can see the use cases for secondary storage. And by the way, both the InfiniBox and the InfiniGuard are used as backup target devices by our customers. When you want to use data reduction with the backup software, you use an InfiniBox. When you want that data reduction to happen at the appliance level, then you use the InfiniGuard. Both work great and both work with all the major backup vendors. Now, the real value we bring at the high level, something when you're talking to your CIO about, is our incredible cost savings. We're able to do that in three ways. Our ROI, as documented by customer interviews by IDC, one of the largest IT analyst firms in the world, is 11 months. Now that's incredible when you're talking a high-end solution. It's one thing to be a low end and have a rapid ROI, but something that can be in the millions of US dollars, depending on your config, that's incredible. Now, how do we do that? First of all, it's our service-oriented automation. We make sure that the box essentially runs itself. This leads it to a set it and forget it IT operations. In fact, several public references, probably close to 50, have said they've had an InfiniBox or SSA or InfiniGuard for 2, 3, 4 years and never touch it once they've done the initial installation. Now, we're also able to not only save you dramatically on CapEx and OpEx to help you get that ROI, but also help you deliver a greener data center with our broad-based consolidation. One of our Fortune 500 customers in the US consolidated from 288 floor tiles to 61, 288 to 61, running all the same workloads, all of the same workloads. Talk about saving watts, slots, power, cooling. And when they move to the next generation of the InfiniBox, which they've actually started to do, they're mostly InfiniBox SSA, they will be recycling less. When they moved to us initially, they had to recycle 288 floor tiles worth of computer equipment. And as you know, computer equipment is filled with toxics. So A, that's not good for the environment, and B, it's very expensive. Now, as they transition from the third generation to now our G4 platform, which was announced last May, they are going to recycle way less. So not only do you get regular savings, in fact, that company in their first 2 years saved 62 million US dollars. And we have other customers all over the world with similar stories. Now we make sure that we back that up with our guarantees. As you can see on the bottom left, we guarantee performance. We have performance SLAs for your InfiniBox and your InfiniBox SSA. 100% availability guaranteed. That's right, 100% availability guaranteed. And because it's not if you'll be attacked, but when and how often, we have 2 different guarantees built around cyber. Cyber storage immutability, we guarantee that our immutable snapshot is in fact indeed immutable, and we guarantee the recovery time. On the InfiniBox and the InfiniBox SSA, we guarantee we will recover in 1 minute or less, no matter how big the data set size. In fact, in Q4 of last year, we did a cyber webinar. We recovered live. That's right. Because I'm such an old guy, I don't believe in doing webinars where you pre-record. So this is coming to you live. I'm coming to you live at 5:08 a.m. California time. I'm in Silicon Valley. So when we did that one, we recovered 4 petabytes on an InfiniBox in 4 seconds. That's right, 4 seconds. On the InfiniGuard, we guarantee recovery in under 20 minutes, regardless of data set size. In that same webinar, we recovered 25.5 petabyte Veeam backup repository, but that could have been Commvault or Veritas or IBM Protect, could have been anybody. We recovered that Veeam backup repository, 25.5 petabytes in 12 minutes. As our customers note, if you aren't running Infinidat in your data center, you are wasting money. And in fact, this is just the awards we won last year. Just last year. Oh, whoops. We've already won more this year. And in fact, tomorrow, on April 10th, you'll see another announcement from Infinidat with another award that we've won around our InfiniBox G4 platform. Now let's get to cyber. It is a huge issue. In fact, in several of the recent surveys of CEOs by both Fortune and by PwC, the large global accounting firm, the number 2 concern of both of them, number 1 was the economy for obvious reasons, but the number 2 concern was cybersecurity, cyber threats. Cybercrime will cost enterprises 10.5 trillion US dollars in 2025. Now that's not just the ransom payments, but malware, of course, could destroy your data. That can be incredibly expensive. Then, of course, you have to fight it. You have to bring in consultants. You got to be able to recover. All that will cost over 10.5 trillion US dollars. Both in the EU, Japan, the UK, and the United States, there are a number of national cybersecurity strategy, or in the case of the EU, pan-national cybersecurity strategies. Why? Because enterprises will suffer 1,636 cyber attacks per week. That's up 30% from last year. And anyone who thinks I won't be attacked, well, I've got some really, really, really dry land sitting up on the moon that I'd like to sell you for 27 billion euros. Because guess what? You will be attacked. It's not when, it's how often, and eventually they will get through. Because of this, there's a huge need for cybersecurity professionals. But at the same time, 27% of the open positions in the cyber world are still open. There's a skills gap, and we help fill that with what we do. And of course, you've got to protect an ungodly amount of data. Now, what we're going to do before we go into InfiniSafe and how we can help you is Tim Dales is going to come on and he's going to talk about all the incredible regulations that you need to adhere to. And remember, if you're a global public company, you have to adhere, and you have data centers all over the world, you have to adhere to your Japanese data center, to the Japanese regulations, to the UK regulations if you have a data center in the UK, if you have one in Germany or France or Italy, into the EU, and if you have one in the States, into the United States. So there are a number of regulations, and Tim is going to spend time going over a number of those. Tim, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it. Let's start by diving in here to this the current state of the National Institute of Standards Technology, the Cybersecurity Framework. This has become very popular and has been very instrumental in guiding organizations globally to effectively manage their cybersecurity risk. So what's the current state of it? As you may know, the CSF 1.0 was developed about 10 years ago, was updated last year to 2.0. And the main addition you'll see is the govern function in the inner circle, which is how they require the other functions around the outside circle to be implemented. Let's go ahead to the next slide, if you will. So how does Infinidat storage map to this important framework? Let's go around the clock. We'll start at identify up there in the top right. Identify, within that is vulnerability scanning. This represents the abundance of tools, including the SIM and SOAR applications that are in your security operations center. Where we come in is with InfiniSafe automated cyber protection, which fully automates the process to create an ad hoc based immutable snapshot when one of your SIM or SOAR third-party tools notifies that there's something going on in the environment that they want to take a snapshot of. Additionally, an identify is where the user needs to identify and categorize the business importance of data sets. You remember back in the day, we used to tier data, tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, all the applications associated with that, and then the RTOs and RPO goals based on those tiers and the data classifications. That's still around now and needs to be done to help identify what applications you bring up first, which are more vulnerable, things like that. Going to the next function, protection. This is the core capabilities of our InfiniSafe immutable snapshots. With the InfiniSafe core stack, you get immutable snapshots out of the box. With this, you can create logical or remote air gap and a fence forensic environment to isolate your immutable snapshots for further investigation. The next one is detect. This is InfiniSafe cyber detection. It does its job here, scanning for anomalies, ransomware, malware, and reports on the location of these infected files. Additionally, InfiniSafe ACP comes back in here and aligns with your cybersecurity framework so that you can lock down a customer's environment when a malware incident has occurred, so that it doesn't spread throughout the organization, and thus we're reducing the threat. The next one is respond. InfiniSafe ACP again comes in here with near real time, creates locked copies to prevent further corruption from being unable to recover as the malware spreads. By the way, ACP is a storage-based SOAR application, the first of its kind in the industry, for those who speak cybersecurity. The next one is recover. InfiniSafe cyber detection isolates and reports from a fence forensic environment all known good copies of data that can then be restored quickly. All in all, the InfiniSafe cyber resilience services of InfiniSafe fulfills all of the NIST CSF 2.0 core functions. Let's go to the next slide, please. Let's transition now to the worldwide cyber regulations Eric talked about, and we're going to start with the US. In the US, Unlike the European Union's centralized approach, the US relies on a combination of laws, executive orders, and industry regulations enforced by a myriad of agencies. National Cybersecurity Strategy Implementation Plan is kind of the government-wide strategy, which was developed and released version 2, that is, last year. This 2024 update introduces 31 new initiatives and involves 6 additional federal agencies in leadership roles, reflecting a comprehensive approach to addressing the cybersecurity threats within the U.S. So these key additions included not only focusing on healthcare sector, but this is to bolster the cybersecurity resilience in hospitals and public health organizations. I don't know about you, but I can't read an online newspaper without seeing some sort of hack at a hospital or a medical group. So that's become a very high area of concentrations for the cyber attackers. So we got to fix that. Educational facilities, they're going to establish and coordinate a council to enhance the practices in educational institutions. Supply chain, we can't do enough of this. This is the best practices for managing cyber supply chain risks across all of the industry sectors. Ransomware mitigation, they touched on strengthening the collaboration between the federal agencies and the private sector to help disrupt ransomware. Software security was also introduced in the new plan, and this is fundamentally around open source software security risks. And the last one, which is emerging technologies, this is securing next-gen technologies and infrastructures, including the development of skilled cybersecurity workforce to fill the skills gap that's in there. And I bet you AI and what's all going on in the AI industry is going to be regulated by the emerging technologies section of this new plan. This all falls under the Office of the National Security or Cybersecurity Director, who sits in the White House. Next slide, please, Art. Unlike the financial services sector in Europe, which has DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act, which is a single regulation that applies to all the EU financial institutions, the US has a multiple of overlapping regulations from different agencies, much more complicated for a business to deal with. This patchwork of many agencies enforces the financial sector in the US. Here's the major ones and their focus. First is the Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council. That's a mouthful. They focus on cyber risk for banks and financial institutions with a number, as you can see, of agencies enforcing them. We've written many blogs about the SEC requirements for disclosure of cybersecurity risks and incidents, and that's the next one on our list. And then we noticed that New York State's getting involved with the Department of Financial Services with their own cybersecurity and third-party risk management capabilities. And lastly, the Federal Reserve has a regulation that governs IT service providers in the financial services sector. So pretty complicated from a U.S. point of view. Let's go to the next slide, please, Eric. We talked about the U.S. Now let's talk about cyber regulations in the European Union. In the EU, there is, let's call it a general directive aimed at network information systems called NIST 2. It's designed to improve cybersecurity risk management, much like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. NIST 2 creates a number of reporting requirements across a number of industries, energy, transportation, healthcare, and infrastructure, and went into force in 2023. But herein lies the problem. The EU requires member states to take this directive and transform it into the national law of each country. However, different levels of cybersecurity maturity across the member states leads to differences in implementation, potentially slowing down full compliance. So, as of March, only 7 members have completed NIST 2. So, in summary, there's a lot of uncertainty and slowness to implement this far-reaching directive at the member state level. Let's go on to the next slide. Additionally, in the EU, there's a regulation called DORA, we mentioned this, which focuses primarily on the financial services sector in Europe to make sure they're resilient to disruptions like cybersecurity or cyber attacks. This regulation became applicable as of January 2023. But unlike NIST, too, DORA is a regulation, not a directive, and does not require national transposition to local law and became legally binding immediately. But never fear, they, however, accompanied DORA with a directive, as you can see. And this directive's purpose is to ensure that DORA's operational requirements are properly integrated into the broader financial regulatory framework of each country. Again, this is a directive, it's not a regulation. So this particular directive tied to DORA must be transposed into the local law. And this, of course, is ongoing as each member state, starts to go through that process. So in essence, they're relying upon the competence of authorities in each country to be responsible for implementing DORA. So let me give you an example. In Germany, their federal authority, BaFin, is providing guidance to the financial institutions to comply with the directive. In summary, typically large financial firms are accustomed to tight regulations and frequent cyber threats. And to that end, they have robust cyber resilience measures kind of already in place, I think, in my mind. However, many are expected to continue refining their compliance efforts beyond the January deadline, particularly in areas like updating IT contracts and maintaining comprehensive record keeping for incident response and things like that. Next slide, please. The UK was not required to comply with NIST 2 because it left the EU. However, the UK has its own cybersecurity regulations, which were originally based on the first NIST directive. Here's some of the other regulations that they have today. First and foremost, the UK Data Protection Act of 2018. This implements the EU's General Data Protection Regulation into UK law. This is one that I believe we're all most familiar with, requiring the protection of personal data. UK's implementation of the original EU NIST directive retained post-Brexit and is now being updated independently. This was updated in 2024 to align more closely with the NIST 2 level standards that I just presented. Consumer product security, especially IoT devices, is regulated by the Product Security and Telecommunications Infrastructure Act. They have a compliance logo program for manufacturers to put their logo when they're comply with the Act's directives. And there's a Telecom Security Act, especially aimed at the telecom sector to enhance cybersecurity with incident response and cooperation. These are all coordinated by the National Cybersecurity and Incident Response Center in London. Next slide, please. Let's move on to Asia and focus on Japan and their cyber regulations. If you have a business in Japan, there's a basic act on cybersecurity, which created a national cybersecurity strategy, much like the USA did with their national cybersecurity strategy. Additionally, an act was created to focus on IT and network systems, much like the European NIST. Out of it was created a National Center for Incident Readiness and Response, NIST, to strengthen cybersecurity coordination between government and private sector businesses, much like the US did with Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Let's go to the next slide, please. Other important Japanese cyber regulations and initiatives include cybersecurity guidelines for critical infrastructure. This was issued by NIST to protect finance, energy, healthcare, and telecom. Those are typical sectors that we've seen the EU as well as the US focus on. So those sound pretty familiar from country to country or region to region. Additionally, telecom has its own Cyber Business Act called the Telecom Business Act, which requires telecom providers to secure their networks and report cyber incidents, much like the UK with their Telecom Security Act. The Telecom Business Act also focuses on cloud security and protection from foreign cyber threats. Additionally, there is a financial services agency, cyber regulations, focused on financial services companies. Much like DORA in the EU, this requires regular cybersecurity audits and incident reporting. And lastly, industrial cybersecurity guidelines was issued by the powerful Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, which aims to secure supply chains and promote IoT security. These are just some of the various global cybersecurity regulation frameworks around cyber that are implemented by the US, the EU, and Japan. Let's take a deeper dive into one of these regulations, NIST 2, and show how Infinidat's storage infrastructure, applications, services tightly align with this cybersecurity directive. This is the NIST 2 directive. It's online. You can, I put a link in the bottom here. It's about 75 pages. Its official designation is 20222555. That indicates the year that it was adopted and the number that it is in the directives. And was focused primarily on kind of a real general goal, right, of high common level of cybersecurity across the union. If we go to the next slide, we'll get into the Article 21. So if you have to scroll through it, about 3/4 of the way into it is what I think is the meat of it. Article 21 addresses cybersecurity risk management measures. And there are 10 of them in this particular article. So let's go through each one and see how Infinidat storage aligns with each one of the directives. Starting with A, policies on risk analysis and information systems. Well, our Infinidat technical advisors can assist with forming a policy for every customer's needs. There's also an excellent document on the NIST site called Security Guidelines for Storage Infrastructure that can help anyone create a secure storage environment. And I put the NIST document number on there, and I think on one of the next slides I have a link to it. So when you get your copy, you can go and find it. Letter B was incident handling. Our InfiniSafe automated cyber protection provides preemptive incident handling and integrates to your data center SIM or SOAR products. C is business continuity, such as backup management, disaster recovery, and crisis management. Again, our InfiniSafe cyber detection recovers known good data from a backup for quick recovery. We guarantee immutable snapshots, immutability, as well as a recovery time in less than a minute. Additionally, we supply a comprehensive set of data services for replication to your DR site. D, supply chain security, including security-related aspects, the relationship between each entity and its direct suppliers or service providers. This is really a kind of a customer specific and is based upon, what kind of suppliers you have. But there's no reason why we can't consult and help a customer evaluate the supplier's cybersecurity capabilities. Next slide, please, Eric. Going with Directive E, security in the network and information systems, acquisitions, development and maintenance, including vulnerability handling and disclosure. Again, this is a customer-specific area, but our TAs can certainly provide some guidance and assist in that. F is policies and procedures to assess the effectiveness of cybersecurity risk management measures. Definitely, our professional services team can help set up and test the effectiveness in this area. G, basic hygiene practices and cybersecurity. This is customer specific again, and Infinidat can assist with the enterprise storage hygiene part and certainly provide cybersecurity training. H, policies and procedures regarding the use of cryptography where appropriate and encryption. Well, we encrypt all data at rest in our Infinidat solutions and support the key management interoperability protocol, KeyMap, and the vendors that integrate to that, such as Thales and IBM Guardium. Next slide, please. In I, human resources, security, access control policies, and asset management. We have role-based access that runs in the system control plane to protect local accounts and domain LDAP groups. We purposely comply with the NIST guidelines in this particular area, Section 4.3 of the security guidelines for the storage infrastructure. Again, an excellent document for anyone that wants to build a secure storage infrastructure. Access control is also supported through Active Directory LDAP authentication, and we have support for CyberArk Central Policy Manager and Privileged Session Manager, as well as single sign-on using SAML2, which is the Security Assertion Markup Language, which is an open standard that enables single sign-on across multiple websites and applications. And last but not least, we have use of multi-factor authentication or continuous authentication solutions, secured voice, video, and text communications, secured emergency communications systems where applicable. Infinidat storage supports multi-factor authentication from a number of vendors, Okta, Cisco, Microsoft, along with all of the open standard products that are using the SAML2 protocol. Next slide, please. How do we provide for enterprises to comply with the regulations, as we pointed out, for your storage infrastructure? I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and he's going to talk about our next-gen data protection solutions based on our InfiniSafe technology. Thank you, Eric.
Tim, well, thank you very much. I think it's very clear to everybody, particularly in global companies, that there are a lot of regulations you need to adhere to. And what we're doing here is not only helping you adhere to those regulations, but more important, having a cyber-focused recovery-first strategy. Again, it's not if you'll be attacked, it's when and how often. And as you saw earlier in the presentation, the average enterprise, 1,636 attacks every week. That's over 50,000 a year. So you will get attacked. They will eventually get through. So with InfiniSafe, recovery first is focused and emphasized. We already mentioned earlier our guaranteed recovery SLAs on your RTO, recovery time objective. It's built into our storage solutions. It's included, the bulk of it, at no charge. We're going to go a little bit deeper on that in a second. Our stack includes immutable snapshots, logical and remote air gapping, a fenced forensic environment, and of course, the instant recovery. Our InfiniSafe automated cyber protection allows us to integrate with other cybersecurity elements that you're using across your data center and automates the process to help reduce the threat window. The cyber detection technology, the only thing we do charge for, allows us to scan snapshots, file systems, databases, and deliver a 99.99% effective detection rate, as validated by Enterprise Strategy Group, one of the largest IT analyst firms in the world. So everyone is concerned about this. This is a quote from the CTO of one of our large global customers, and of course, very critical that you don't think of cyber as edge only and core only. When you're talking to the CISO and the security teams, they often do not think about storage. We would argue that a cyber attack is basically a disaster. So when storage is integrated into a disaster recovery strategy, that means it should also be incorporated into a corporate cybersecurity strategy. The InfiniSafe stack, very straightforward. Everything on the right-hand side, the air gapping, the snapshots, the fence forensic environment, the instantaneous recovery, and automated cyber protection is all included at no charge. You don't have to turn it on if you don't want to. We've been more than happy to help you. Our technical advisors and our professional services team can help you do that. InfiniSafe Cyber Protection is the only element of our cyber stack that we charge anything for, and it's a nominal fee. Now, when you look at InfiniSafe, we do it in two ways, both on primary storage, the InfiniBox, the InfiniBox SSA. We also have it on secondary storage. So whether using the InfiniBox, where the backup application provides the data reduction as a target, whether using the InfiniGuard as a target device, where we are doing the data reduction, not the backup application, or our InfuseOS Cloud Edition. Remember, the InfuseOS Cloud Edition, announced 2 years ago with both AWS and with Microsoft Azure, provides a full version of an InfiniBox sitting in your cloud infrastructure. So this allows you to get, of course, whether it's primary storage, backup or secondary storage, out to the cloud, all that. And in fact, InfiniSafe will work from a primary storage perspective in InfuseOS Cloud Edition as well. So that hybrid multi-cloud technology that we deliver, both on-prem, seamlessly integrating to off-prem, we include, of course, cyber resilience as well. Now, when you look again across the portfolio, from a primary storage perspective, it's built into the InfuseOS, whether it be primary storage on the left side or the InfiniGuard for secondary storage. Flexible integration, okay? In the case of the InfiniBox SSA, we have a reference architecture leveraging an API-first integration methodology. On the InfiniGuard, this purpose-built backup appliance, InfiniSafe is fully orchestrated, so you don't need the reference architecture to create, for example, the fenced forensic environment. Of course, we guarantee immutability on whether it be on primary storage, the box and the box SSA, or whether it be with the guard. And of course, recovery time objectives. 1 minute or less. Again, when we did a public webinar in Q4 of last year, 4 petabytes in 4 seconds. I kid you not. And on the backup side, on the InfiniGuard side, on the right side, we guarantee under 20 minutes, a 25.5 petabyte Veeam backup repository, but it could have been Commvault or any other backup vendor that we work with. And it was 12 minutes for 25.5 petabytes. That is incredible recovery times that we are guaranteeing for you in writing. Now, one of the newer things we introduced last year was the integration between InfiniSafe and data center-wide cybersecurity infrastructure. Again, do not leave storage out of your comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. That is a mistake. So whether it be a security operations center, a SOC, whether it be SIM software, whether it be data center-wide SOAR software. And in fact, InfiniSafe, when you look at the definition of SOAR, InfiniSafe is a SOAR compliant application. But in this case, think of the more data center-wide packages. So whether that be Microsoft Sentinel or Splunk or IBM QRadar, okay, and how we integrate with them. So again, the key point with ACP is when these third-party packages or your security operations center see a threat, we in near real time can help reduce the threat window. Why would you want to do that? A, you want to catch it as early as possible. Remember, cyber criminals are not King Kong. Hope you all love King Kong movies or Godzilla movies. And in all those movies, who's yelling and screaming at the top of the lungs that, make people go deaf because it's so loud? King Kong and Godzilla. Cyber criminals are completely surreptitious, as secretive as possible. They're the ultimate deep secret agent from your favorite secret agent movie, whether that be James Bond, Jason Bourne, whoever it may be. So this is going to happen when these other packages detect it with APIs that will then trigger us immutable snaps. Now, with our technical advisor team, our professional services, you set up what you want to do. So once you've configured it, it will automatically just do it if IBM QRadar senses an attack, okay? Or if your security operations center senses an attack, through APIs will automatically taking snapshots. And because our immutable snapshots are instantaneous, there's no effect on production. So even your most demanding workloads, which by the way, usually are the ones that you want to protect, we can do the immutable snaps tiered off by either the SOC or the data center-wide cybersecurity package. You can go even deeper than that for customers that do have InfiniSafe cyber detection. Once you've taken those snaps, we can automatically scan. Remember, time is money. And what you want to do is recover, and you want to recover a known good copy of data. And remember, when you've got petabytes and petabytes and petabytes, that is a huge threat vector that they can attack. So you need to make sure what you've got is good. The last thing you want to do is have a snapshot that has malware or ransomware because you weren't scanning it, and then recover. And all you've done is lengthen the recovery process, which is the last thing you want. Remember, the longer it takes to recover, the more impact it has either on your business in real time or clearly what it costs you to do the recovery. Now, we also, with our cyber detection technology, make sure that we can scan primary stores. This includes, by the way, what we added last year, the capability of scanning VMware as well. So databases, user files, we can scan them all. What we do is we do a full level of integration. We can, as we noticed already, if you get pinged in ACP and we take a snap, you then can tee off with InfiniSafe cyber detection to scan that, okay? We do comprehensive indexing and security analytics to determine through a machine learning algorithm whether we see a malware or ransomware attack. When corruption is detected, alerts are sent. There is a dashboard. And in fact, you can even integrate where you could send alerts through an API from the storage side out to the data center-wide cybersecurity packages or to your SOC. That's right, a lot of different things you can do. Now, we see this as two methods to help you. First is our own version of an early warning system. Just the way QRadar or Splunk identifies from a data center-wide perspective, you could be scanning on a regular basis. And then as you scan the snapshots or file systems, whether it be once a day or every other day, once you do that, if we detect something, we can then notify the SOC or the SIM or source software, however you want to do it. So it can be the storage version of an early warning system. The second thing, of course, is you've had an attack. So in addition to going into the defense forensic environment with your SAP team, your Oracle team, your Mongo or Cassandra team, you also could use InfiniSafe cyber detection to scan that to get what in the industry is now referred to as a known good copy. Once you have a known good copy, you then execute the recovery. And as you know, on the InfiniBox and the InfiniBox SSA, that recovery time is 1 minute or less, even if it's petabytes and petabytes. And on the data protection side, with our InfiniGuard system, that recovery is 20 minutes or less. Again, petabytes, petabytes, and petabytes of that backup repository. So again, you've got an early warning system you could use cyber detection for, or clearly when you've had an attack, excuse me, to arrive at a known good copy for recovery. Now, this is a version of the dashboard. You can see it's organized by severity, very easy to use, okay? It can then drill down. You can go deep once you think. So on a high, for example, which you see at the very top, has got the box around it in blue. You could click on that. That will give you details. You can also create dynamic charts. We can also offload things to Excel spreadsheets. And of course, through an API, when you have an attack, we can send notification from the API through to SIM software, source software, or to your data center-wide cybersecurity packages, or your security operations center. All that can be covered with this. Now, what we added most recently was the capability of identifying and scanning VMware data stores. It uses the same AI and ML technology as it does for file systems or databases. It scans all the VMs by default, but you can adjust that. So if you don't want to scan all of them, that's okay too. You then can simply exclude what you don't want to scan. As documented by Enterprise Strategy Group, 99.99% effective at identifying a cyber threat. And of course, this, as with all of the InfiniSafe cyber detection through APIs, can communicate with your security operations center, with your SIM software, or your source software as well. Of course, the analysts are very, excuse me, impressed with what we're doing across our portfolio with everything around InfiniSafe, InfiniSafe automated cyber protection, InfiniSafe cyber protection to help keep you safe. Now we have a number of resources available on our website. So we've got a dedicated page on cyber resilience. We also have a dedicated page on next generation data protection and recovery. So take a look at those to get more information. Now, as we come to close, we want to thank you very much for taking your time. Again, a reminder that this recording, as well as a PDF of this PowerPoint, will be available tomorrow at www.infinidat.com. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, this is great, but Tim and I work here. All right, don't listen to us. How about listening to customers? That's right. Gartner, not Gartner analysts, but Gartner has a system called Gartner Peer Insights. It's not just on storage, it's on databases, on all kinds of different software and IT functions. It's end users who write the review, not Infinidatians, not our partners, not Gartner analysts, but real end users. Gartner validates that they are in fact a legit end user, so it's not my wife and my kids writing reviews, which is good, so you know that it's good. We have won the Gartner Peer Insights Customer's Choice for Storage 7 times, most recently in February of this year. All the reviews are posted, so you can look whether it be the InfiniBox, the InfiniBox SSA, the InfiniGuard. The ratings are on a scale of 0 at the worst to 5 is the highest. You can see 4.9, 4.8, and 5.0, depending on which of the products. And there's also the capability of willingness to recommend. Our customers, and remember, our focus is mostly global Fortune 2000 accounts. Yes, we do have some smaller accounts, and we do especially well with mid and small size service providers, CSPs, MSPs, and MHPs. However, the bulk of our customers are the largest enterprises on this planet, and you can see how they rate us. As they note, the InfiniBox SSA is an outstanding storage array. You'll see similar comments. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. Again, this will be repeated live at 10 a.m. California time today, 1 p.m. US Eastern, and at 6 p.m. UK. So if one of your fellow employees, is working a little bit late and would like to see this, please encourage them to sign up for that version of this webinar. But also this webinar and a PDF of the presentation will be available shortly. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And if you have any questions, please remember to reach out to our global network of channel partners or to your favorite Infinidat sales team. Thank you again, and make sure you look at www.infinidat.com. And thank you very much for attending today.
Well, there you have it, another solution in our spotlight. I want to thank Eric Herzog and Infinidat for that presentation, and we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.